And part of that transition team, Conrad Lucas, joins us via telephone. Conrad, good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. It's good to be on with you guys today.
Good to have you as well, Conrad. And before we get into the inauguration stuff, have you been following the college football playoffs?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, there'd been, a lot of talk for years about why we needed a playoffs, and I think the fact that the number 1 and number 2 seed are not in the national championship justifies that playoff. So
I agree.
I went to Vanderbilt, which is not a historic football power,
or a football power of any, not even non-historic.
But they beat Alabama.
They did.
Yeah.
We
did beat Alabama and Auburn, and so I went to our bowl game this year in Birmingham. So, yeah, we own the state of Alabama because we beat Auburn, Alabama, and then won the Birmingham Bowl. So,
you now claim it. Yeah.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we we took that one.
And
but we'll be in the college football playoffs next year, and I think all your listeners can just go ahead and expect that. But I'm looking forward to seeing how this game turns out. But yeah, I love that the playoff is expanded, and I love that it's not the number 1 and number 2 seeds.
Now, the quarterback of Vanderbilt has created a whole new dimension of controversy in college football because he wants
awesome.
Well, yeah, he's had was it Diego Pavia? Is that his name?
Yeah.
He's had a great season, but he also sued the NCAA because he went to junior college for 2 years, and he wanted to change the ruling that counts toward your eligibility to play college football at a 4-year school. And ultimately, he won, but the NCAA, last I saw, was still trying to keep him from being able to salvage those 2 years he spent at junior college, which is kind of fascinating in that it seems kind of personal at this point. But because of his case, if you went to JUCO for 2 years, you still will have your eligibility for the full 4 or 5 years at a regular 4-year school now to play sports.
Enabling them to get 4 years of NIL money.
And that's really what's behind it, because if you're not really an NFL prospect, you have a chance to still make pretty good money in college now as a player. And this will enable that to happen for a lot of those athletes.
Well, and in the SEC, they've always been able to make pretty good money, even before NIL.
Now it's just not in cash. Yeah,
or cars or whatever.
Small unmarked bills. Yes,
cars, whatever. And good for him. I mean, and the NCAA does seem to be sad about that, but he won, and good. He was right, and I'm glad he sued, and I'm glad that he won, and that's why I'll be in the college football playoffs next year. And this time next year, I want to be on the show talking about the Vanderbilt, the forthcoming Vanderbilt national championship.
You got it, man. If that happens,
thank you.
You got the 8 a.m. slot, baby. Hey,
I want to host the whole show.
Drive up. I'll put you in the chair beside me, man.
All right. Okay, I'm gonna record this because I was planning on it.
Yeah, it's a done deal. All I have to do is be alive a year from now to make it happen. Oh, you too, of course. Yeah. Let's talk about yesterday and getting a new governor in place. I thought it was pretty cool. Previous governors, including Joe Manchin, Earl Ray Tomlin, of course, Jim Justice, were on hand to see the inauguration of Governor Morrisey. Conrad?
Yeah, it was a wonderful time, and I was happy. It was actually, heat wave here in Charleston. I want to say it was probably around 35 degrees. So the weather cooperated for us, and Patrick Morrisey, of course, now is officially our governor, so we can stop saying governor-elect. We can call him Governor Morrisey officially. And he laid out his vision for the state in a speech which talked everywhere from health to education to conservative values to the economy, and the event was jam-packed because when we were first taking a look at all of the inaugurals from the past, we saw that there was a lot of pick and choose. Some years there were parades, some there weren't. Some years there was inaugural balls, sometimes there weren't. So we thought, all right, well, let's just do everything because that's what Patrick wanted to do. He wanted to make it a real celebration of West Virginia and an excuse for folks to come to the Capitol and make it about citizens of West Virginia. And so that's what we did.
What did you think about his message in regards to, one, I thought he tried to capture a little Ronald Reagan in there with the way he was referring to the state. And in regards to a positive note in trying to inspire West Virginians, I thought he went out of his way to do that as well.
I thought he did a great job on it. And yes, there were some hints of Reagan there, you know, and being on the show here at 8 a.m., I can say, yes, it is morning in West Virginia. And so, you know, as he's talked a lot about, you know, the shining state in the mountains, that's been his theme for a while. Folks heard it on the campaign trail, and you heard him say that yesterday, and that was actually the official inaugural theme, shining state in the mountains. Because, you know, getting back to college football, he also talked about making this a backyard brawl but on all fronts, you know, not just football, but on the economy, on education attainment and workforce participation and anything measure. Because, you know, Patrick is a very metric-driven individual, and he's going to be a very metric-driven governor. So that was part of the essentially challenge that he laid out. His vision, which was also a challenge to all of West Virginians and all those who will be involved in state government directly, is to make sure that we're a shining state in the mountains and we win a backyard brawl on every measurable metric with our surrounding states. Sorry, Maryland.
There you go.
It's cold over there. Hey,
it is colder over there. Yeah, and someone said when we were leading in that West Virginians are tougher. We are.
Hey, what do you regard as the biggest challenges to the Morrissey 4 years, the first 4 years, and potentially a second 4 years after that?
Well, you know, the biggest challenges are going to be the fact that we as West Virginians, for so long, in a lot of ways, we've accepted being in last place on all last place in all the good measurements, and first place in all the bad ones. We've almost accepted that, and so it's going to be, I think, getting people to believe and to buy into the possibilities that we have, because that's what Patrick's vision is. Of course, is achieving a lot of greatness and doing a lot of winning for the state. You know, he won a lot for West Virginia as Attorney General, always fighting for the little guy. He won some truly remarkable federal U.S. Supreme Court cases, and so now he's going to lay out the path for us to win on the economy, on education, on workforce participation, and on conservative values. So there will be needed buy-in from citizens all across the state, because it's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take a lot of difficult decisions. So I think just the buy-in and the acceptance that we don't have to be last. We can be first, and we're going to be. The
impressive part about his tenure as the AG, Conrad, as you know, is not only did he take on cases to the U.S. Supreme Court and take on the federal government, famously the EPA and such, but he also took on fraudulent contractors who were taking advantage of grandma and with their businesses and their practices that they used. So he truly did go from A to Z in terms of who he was defending and representing in his tenure as the Attorney General.
Yeah, and that's the kind of meticulous nature that you'll see him as governor. It was, sure, there were a lot of the very important precedent-setting U.S. Supreme Court cases, but also there were all of his efforts to weed out waste, fraud, and abuse as Attorney General. Now, as governor, he has a much larger scope and much larger ability to weed out waste, fraud, and abuse. You know, all through state government and all through the entities and that touch state government, which in West Virginia is a lot. So he has that ability now, and he will execute that ability or act on that ability, and we're going to benefit as a state because honesty and transparency, those are the values he has, and those are the values that that will guide him as governor.
Matt Miller.
Let me turn to one of his statements, in uniting, putting aside differences and uniting for the greater good of West Virginia. With a supermajority in the legislature, how much of that uniting has to be within the party itself? When you have a supermajority, you kind of have to have someone on the other side, and so it seems like there are some splits on that Republican side of what issues maybe need to be tackled ahead of others. So how does the governor unite everyone in kind of a unique situation?
Well, the real enemy here isn't elected officials or isn't necessarily even the opposite party or even folks within the party. The real enemy is complacency. So we do have an opponent, and it's just the culture of complacency and the culture of acceptance of defeat on many fronts. Things can be better in West Virginia, and it's Patrick is going to actively work to show West Virginians the steps that need to be taken for us to rise in all the important rankings and all the measurements that he cares about and we all care about and we all talk about. Because, he's tired, like we're all tired, of hearing anytime any report comes out on any front, West Virginia's dead last in X, or, we're dead last in Y. It's time for that to stop. So the real enemy we're battling here is the culture of complacency and acceptance. But to your point of having supermajorities in the legislature on the Republican side, we do. And so that means that there are a lot of folks whose constituents elected them because of their conservative values, and these folks are reflective of that. And what I hear, I'm around the Capitol all the time. What I hear is an excitement about from legislators and others who are part of state government for all this change and for all this activity that's going to start today. It's the inaugural ball concluded around midnight, and so the real work starts today. But the real work has been going on for weeks or months, honestly, and coming up with plans that you'll start hearing a lot about that he previewed yesterday. And there's things that Republicans collectively have talked about for years. But it's one thing about putting ideas and things that we're passionate about in a platform, and then it's another to campaign on them. But now we get to the point, because of Patrick Morrisey, where we get to act on them. And they actually go from platform to campaign to real implementation and really benefiting the state. And, when I started off in all this political stuff, we were basically in a super minority almost in the legislature, and now being a super majority. But we've really needed a truly conservative and very, 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 very active executive to execute and essentially push the pedal to the metal on conservatism, and that's what Patrick's going to be starting to do today.
How would you grade the transition? How has it gone? How has Governor Justice worked with now Governor Patrick Morrisey to, continue some of the things that Governor Justice saw as important, but how will it also be different, the transition maybe to Governor Morrisey implementing now his ideas?
Well, considering how would I grade the transition, considering I was on and one of the leaders of the transition team, A+, greatest transition in history, single most effective you've ever seen.
Well done. Well done.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Conrad, for your great work.
Vanderbilt couldn't have done it better.
Absolutely. Thank you. No, I mean, so how would I grade it? I would say it accomplished everything that Patrick has wanted it to, and now it's time to take action, and that's where the real judgment comes. So as part of the transition, there was a look taken at, every state agency, every cabinet department, every state agency in terms of functionality, looking for duplications and looking for, say, a high-level look at state government and solicitation of ideas from across all sectors. So legitimately, the work of the transition team was a lot of information gathering, a lot of conversations, a lot of reports, and a lot of writing. Now the real judgment comes with how well is it implemented. And so I think that you'll start hearing today some of the fruits of that work. from Patrick himself. So the implementation of that transition work begins now and will continue for the years to come. And so have me on 4 years from now after the fourth Vanderbilt National Championship, and we can do an assessment then.
Jonathan Bodwell.
4 in a row, I think, might be a little
ambitious.
Ambitious, Pollyanna-ish. You can use whatever words you want. Yeah, I mean,
I'm just talking in reality.
Yes, yeah.
Perhaps.
I mean, having a supermajority and a strong conservative governor creates a super responsibility to really revamp the state. I mean, there are a lot of things in this state that work very well. There's some that are not. I mean, our education system's in the toilet. I mean, to put it mildly. I want to talk a little bit about something we can do to really bring a lot of money into West Virginia, which can hopefully help revamp our education system and other things to keep our our strong brains, the young people who come through the state well educated, they leave. And that's one of our biggest problems. I mean, we have enormous natural resources, and I think having a strong conservative governor and also having Donald Trump in the White House, we have somebody who's pro-energy. Finally, in the White House. I mean, the expansion we can have we have so much natural gas, the coal, obviously. Can you talk on that a little bit?
Oh, well, of course. How many times over the years have we heard folks talk about, we're the Saudi Arabia of coal, because we are. And think of all the natural gas that we're sitting on that's being utilized. And having a strong partner in the White House is essential to that. And we do. Now, for the next 4 years, starting next week, we will have a strong partner in the White House who understands the benefits of natural resources and energy. And, West Virginia is sitting right here. And fortunately, Patrick is someone who has the vision to build on our existing God-given fossil fuels and see how we can truly help those to thrive in the 21st century, because we haven't always had and currently do not, for the next 5 days, a partner in the White House who sees the value of West Virginia and the value of energy and the value of energy independence, which is key. So Patrick talked about energy in his speech yesterday, and you had mentioned education. He referred to education as the cornerstone of the future for West Virginia and the cornerstone for building our economy. So. And you also mentioned how so many people leave. What's the old expression? Oftentimes here in school, people learn reading, writing, and the road out. So building on our energy economy and building to diversify our economy is key, so that folks have reasons to stay, because the ultimate reason is every West Virginian wants to stay. Absolutely. We all have a strong sense of home, a sense of place, and sense of family. But Patrick's going to be working to make sure that this is the best place to live, work, play, and raise a family. So that's multi-pronged and will be difficult and will be comprehensive and will be time-consuming. But it's going to be fun because it's going to happen. He said it's going to happen, thus it will, because he's the kind of guy, as we've seen for the last 12 years as AG, when he says it, he likes to accomplish it. There's going to be a lot of winning, and he's ready to win.
Well, we like that. I mean, one thing we need to win on here in the Eastern Panhandle is we lose teachers constantly because they're not paid what the teachers are in the surrounding areas. And I've spoken with the state education, the state union presidents, and it's like, oh, well, all the teachers are doing the same job. Yeah, they're doing the same job, but they're doing the job in an area where you can buy a house for $100,000, and here you got to buy a house for $300,000. And we have Maryland and Virginia. I mean, where teachers. I had a teacher friend of mine last year. She's driving 7 minutes further to work, and she's making $22,000 more a year going to Maryland. And we got to stop that, because that's a brain drain on the Eastern Panhandle, which is a huge engine, because the people moving from Northern Virginia, from Maryland, coming here are bringing high incomes and a lot of state income taxes. And if we don't have better education for them, that influx is going to stop, and that's going to hurt our economy.
You're right. And he said yesterday in his speech he wants to pay our teachers competitively. And that's part of the backyard brawl of competition with surrounding states. We see teacher pay, I think it's about 60% of West Virginia's population lives in a county that borders another state. And teachers can very easily, of course, in the Eastern Panhandle, drive to Maryland, Virginia, or Pennsylvania, and be paid better. If you go to southern West Virginia, to hear the tale of the two Bluefields, where they can be paid more in Bluefield, Virginia. And then over, say, the Huntington, Parkersburg area, where they're looking at Kentucky or Ohio. And, of course, the Northern Panhandle, Ohio and Pennsylvania. It's, so much of our population is concentrated in areas where it's convenient and more makes more sense financially for teachers to just cross a state border. But, yes, he brought up teacher pay, competitive teacher pay, in his inaugural speech. Oftentimes inaugural speeches are a little more on the lofty side than on the specific side, but he got specific yesterday. So the fact that he went that specific that early means we'll see a plan for that, and we will ultimately see action.
1 minute to go. Conrad, what is your job now that the governor is in place?
I'm going to sleep.
Good for you.
Having been part of the transition and then the co-chair of the inaugural committee itself, I think I got back last night. I was the last person out of the Charleston Civic Center, and as things were closing down. And so I am going to take a day or two and recuperate and remember what my real job is. But now I'll be remaining, of course, an ardent supporter of Patrick and there for anything he might need over time. And I'm just excited to see all the winning West Virginia is going to see over the next 4 years.
Thank you for joining us this morning, Conrad. I know you were whipped, so I appreciate you waking up and doing this.
Thanks for having me, guys. And remember, you committed. A year from now, I'm on to talk college football playoff.
Go Commodores, baby.
Anchor down. Thank you.
And that's Conrad Lucas.